Welcome back. Zach Keilman is here, which means it's bear down and anything else NFL, I suppose.
I suppose, although right now I'm currently enjoying what is not too shabby of a baseball season right now for my Cubbies. Fighting for top of the NL, not just the Central. We're talking top NL, baby. Looking real good.
They are. I don't really watch them because I don't have time, but I keep up.
I know you haven't lately, but just letting you know, Kyle Tucker, it's a great product. Just gotta be honest.
Oh, I mean, I saw they're on a win streak at one point. They're like, they haven't had a win streak or scored this many runs since 2016. And I was like, oh, remember what happened in 2016?
Yeah, I mean, for those keeping up right now, and credit, they're going through a soft part of the schedule. They actually have one of the easiest remaining schedules, like in the summer. But they're 37-22, beat the Reds today, won the series 2-3. And they're tied atop for the number one seed in the NL right now, credit early summer, with the Mets and the Dodgers. So they're not too shabby stuff. They've also played really well against the top teams like the Dodgers and the Mets this year. So hey, keep this train rolling. Good times. But no, I'm kind of in baseball mode. I'm kind of in like UFL mode. You already know that. I'm actually, and maybe you've been following some of my tweets, I'm heavily into IndyCar mode as of late. Like
I did see that.
I've been heavy into IndyCar this year, more than usual. And like I used to live in Indiana all the damn time. It's IndyCar everywhere in Indianapolis. I'm even more so than ever before on that.
So when the Indy 500 was on, I didn't know it was on. In-laws came over. The dad loves it, so I put it on. I must be a curse because as soon as I put it on was when the guy hit his pit crew when he came in. Then you had that's like right when I turned it on, that happened. Then you had the wreck happen like literally 2 minutes later.
Yep.
And then something else happened like 2 minutes later. So I like turned my head. I was like, I must be the curse because I don't really watch it. So I'm like, as soon as I turned it on, all this stuff started happening. So I said, this is why I'm a football guy. I'm not supposed to be.
Oh my God. Poor all I'm gonna say is Robert Schwartzman, like cool that he was like first rookie in like 40-ish years to like get a pole. Nightmare of a day. Like was nowhere competitive to even win that race. So it's funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah, I take the blame for that because I'm not supposed to be. But I've never been to a NASCAR race. I've never been to an Indy race because I don't have the attention span. It's kind of like baseball. So I like baseball, but I really don't have the attention span to like watch a full game on TV. Now, when the baseball season first starts, I can put a game on because it's going, but I just don't have the attention span to like sit there. So like if I watch a baseball game on TV, when you get to like the fourth, fifth inning, I have to walk away and do something else and then come back. Unless you're live. If it's live, you're obviously
right.
Now,
well, racing, much like football, is better in person, hands down. There is an aesthetic to watching racing live because you get more info, but like in person, the feel of the car, the rumble of the motor going by, like whole different ball game. It's so much better in person to me.
Well, that's why like I can't sit there and watch a NASCAR race, anything else on TV, just because even the announcers, like after they get so long, they start talking about something else. You got all these commercials going on. I think if I was there live, it'd be a lot different, which I would love to go to someday to see one. I know NASCAR or whatever came to Chicago, but I hate the city.
Well, it's funny because that was gonna be my joke. Was I would ask if you're interested in going to the Chicago race, but I know you hate going to downtown Chicago, so completely defeats the purpose of me trying to entertain that option.
I would if they didn't raise taxes yesterday, but that's the point.
Another sore spot.
It's not like we pay enough taxes already, and I don't get any benefits from the taxes. The roads are still bad. Never mind. It's the state of Illinois being the state of Illinois.
Well, you know what that does tie into, though? The never-ending saga of Kevin Warren's quest to start construction on a stadium. It's not even like picking a location. It's just like we're gonna start. We're going to flip flop until it works, is what it seems like anymore. It's not even like trying to pick one. It's just whichever one gets us that glorious government money. And looks like that won't be happening at least for another year, like at least a budget cycle, as they claim. Because missed the boat there.
Yeah, it is Chicago Bears related. The bill they got. One thing I hate about politics is that they plopped down this thousands of page budget, and they had less than 24 hours to read it and pass it. I'm like, who can sit there and read like 30,000 pages and pass something?
I mean, Jesus, yeah, we're talking like bills alone. We hear about how long some of these things are if you ever follow political talk.
Well, a guy put a video up. I was just scrolling, and a video popped up, probably because I'm in Illinois, and it was stacked like from here to here of papers.
Oh my God.
And he's like, obviously it's Republican versus Democrat, but we're not going to get into that. But regardless of who it was, I don't really care. Like, he's like, guys, we have to read this and get it done by midnight. And it was like the day of, and it's like, wait, what?
Brutal.
So,
and even through all that, it was determined that there was no room left for any Chicago stadium talk.
No, so that's what I was getting at. I wanted to say that part, but yeah, it did have something to do with the Bears. There was no budget for the stadium, and I assume that's for both Arlington and the city of Chicago. I think I know for sure it's in the city what they want to do, but Arlington, I don't know if that really, I'm assuming, affected it, but yeah, there's no budget for a stadium. So this whole Kevin Warren's a master of getting these done. He has a new match against the state of Illinois. He's up against corruption at the highest in Illinois. We have a history of it. But yeah, he's up against that. So I don't know if Arlington's back into play again. Have you noticed that like every 2 weeks it's like Chicago, and 2 weeks later, no, we're going to Arlington. No, we're back in Chicago. I think it's back to Arlington now. They're probably like, they have to get the NFL involved now and be like, you got to help us get this going.
As of, and this is the last update, as of May 19th, the Bears shifted back to the Arlington Heights project on an official basis. So that is the renewed interest. They're back to Arlington Heights, scrapping it or sidelining for the moment until maybe it's the better option, the downtown Chicago concept off the lakefront or redevelopment project of Soldier Field. So who knows if that'll take off, but like the main thing is it still comes back to, we don't want to spend on stadium because tax dollars are crazy in state. However, as I am reading the Chicago Sun-Times piece on this, JB Pritzker has hired outside consultants to talk with the Bears front office about their proposals. So they are looking at these proposals at least, but on a public end, it looks like it's like dead end. We're not moving anywhere yet. You're going to have to make something that's more friendly to the government's end or something like that.
Well, JB Pritzker is a clown, so who knows if it will ever get done. Sure, I'll get in trouble for saying that, but I don't
Well, and I think the thing is, Kevin Warren was mainly brought in credit. He's helped a little. He's had a little bit of input with, of course, getting Ben Johnson in and all that, or talking about that decision on Ben Johnson. But like you and I both know, his main objective was to get this stadium deal done.
Yeah,
that still is a consistent thing that gets brought up, and it's like, well, I guess we're just going nowhere. It's just a story to talk about to waste time on Chicago airwaves.
Which, do you blame Kevin Warren for it, or do you blame more of Illinois politicians and all of them?
I blame, and I want your thoughts on this really, because I blame this on a mix of government being government, but I also blame how the American sports upgrade system that is the consistent, well, we're multi-million dollar to billion-dollar worth company, but we can't give you, we will probably pay the lesser end of this bargain. We expect you to pay most of it. And it's because of our economic impact, blah, 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 blah. If we move away, you're screwed. Like, it's like holding it's always like holding a government official at gunpoint. It's like, do it or we'll leave. And, you know, I think that, you know, you look at their situations like, well, you really don't have to leave. It's just that, you know, you brought in a guy that you want to get away from renting down on the lakefront, you know, and you want to own your spot. You want an entertainment place, and you want a place where you can host bigger events and help generate growth revenue through that. And yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's the Illinois government being stingy on it, because I live in Arizona now for near 3 years, but like I grew up on the other side of the state line. You hear and you see all the stories living up by all the Chicago TV and radio stations. You know exactly what you're in for. This doesn't shock me at all. So it's a mix of both.
Yeah, it's politics being politics, government being government. But I also see the side of, why would you make the whole state of Illinois pay more taxes to get this done?
Yes.
When you probably, now if you brought it to like a vote, if a majority of people in Illinois said, yes, I'll pay more taxes to get this done, sure. But I'm curious how many people in the state of Illinois are like, you make enough money as the Chicago Bears, you already have a stadium, you know, I don't want to raise my taxes, because how many people actually go to a game? Like when I was growing up, some people did, but think about it. If you live in Champaign or even farther south, it's 2.5 to 4.5 hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to drive up either the day of, and if they play at noon, you're leaving at 5 a.m., or you're going the night before, trying to stay in a hotel. Hotels are expensive. Like, it's a whole thing. It's expensive just for us to take the train and do this and do that to get down there, and paying for the ticket. So I see the side of, why should the people of Illinois pay for this? What do they get out of it? And they're going to say, well, we're going to generate no, you're going to generate revenue for the surrounding area. So
right,
if you put it where Soldier Field is now in that plan, yeah, you'll create more jobs, you're going to do this, but how does that affect the suburbs? How does that affect anything south of I-80? So, right, like, I don't want to pay for it. I want the Bears to pay for it. I want the NFL to pay for it. Now, I'm not saying that Illinois doesn't have something to do with it. You know, if you're going to raise taxes, raise Chicago's taxes in order to pay for it, is my thing, because that's where it is, but that's not how it works. You're going to raise it on everybody. So,
I mean, shoot, man, we saw the Bills basically made the New York government cave within like, I don't know, it was like almost expedited that they gave them money for their deal as well. Like that was like last year, or sorry, 2 years ago, you know, and they like rush jobbed that one real quick. There were some people criticizing how fast that they caved to the Bills and all that, but you know, you have that side of the coin, you know, or you have this where it's like, okay, well, we're going to be a little more stingy on that.
The state of Illinois never has like a balanced budget. It never does. The last time they did was when they used the COVID money that they got and used that. And now we're not really a state that's known for balancing budgets. And you could say I'm going after our current governor. I'm just saying in general, for over the many years, we just never happened. So in my opinion, the Bears should look at taking out loans, paying some of it yourself, working with Roger Goodell and saying, because they have money somewhere. So it's like, hey, what if there's a way to get it done? And that's why I think it's going to continue to be Arlington Heights. Now, I know the battle with Kevin Warren and the state of Illinois is they don't want to pay high taxes building it in Arlington.
Right. And that's the problem, is that the state's tax rate, this is still that's lingering. I mean, I can't believe feels like we're talking like a political show right now, but like the tax rate there is permitting them from going, because they want to have a lower tax rate, because like it's a business. So you want a lower tax rate, better tax rate, less expenses you have on your head, you know, and you don't have to take as much of a chunk of change out of your pocket, or you feel like you're getting a fair deal.
Your guy talking about how we're
so matter. Good to see you, my buddy, my friend, my co-host of the UFO podcast, who is also a Lions fan. So
Oh, I could wear my Lions stuff. I know I got the Bears one. I got the Lions thing upstairs.
You could do. He does say we are cursed, though. He's told me that on multiple levels.
I mean,
we are cursed.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
It was. I think he was like, I can't remember how he did this. Maybe he'll send in the comment, but I swear it's like a transit property that, passing the buck on for Lions bad years onto us now or something. I forget. It's been a minute since we talked about it, but maybe this whole stadium thing is part of it too. Because what's funny is like they switched to the Arlington Heights project, and the one other thing that sticks out to me in this Chicago Sun-Times article, credit, I don't think it's the full end-all be-all of the whole thing, but JD Prisker is on my side. He wants him to stay in the city, which I'm like, I mean, that's probably a very minuscule point in this whole debate. But could you imagine if one of the holdups would be that the government of Illinois is like, no, well, why don't you stay in the city? And then he just gets stuck on that point while they're trying to that's where talk this through.
But that's where the battle comes in. So when they're like, okay, I actually think Kevin Warren and company want to stay in the city. I really do. I think that's kind of where
I don't know what I think they just want a better venue that they can have more control over. And I think that they're just going to find and make it some way for something to happen. I just don't know what it'll be.
That's where this Donald Trump art of the deal comes in. If you've read anything, I don't want to, I know that's going to get people, oh my God, he said the word Donald Trump.
Oh, he did it. He did it.
I'm just saying, like, if you've read or watched anything about him, when he got those buildings built, he had to get a tax break because of how to get this built. I don't know how it all works, but I'm just going to leave it at that. That's kind of what's happening right now, where I'm sure Kevin Warren and company are like, okay, yeah, we would love to stay in the city, but we've got to get out of this lease first. Like, you can't, if you want us to stay in the city, you can't charge us to break this lease or however that works. Then we're going to need tax breaks because we plan on doing all of this. Can you give us the tax break? And Illinois is like, well, we can't because we want the money. And then you guys got to pay for all that stuff. And it's like, well, okay, we'll pay for all this stuff if you give us the tax break. And we figure like, so there's a give and take here. So if you go to Arlington, you don't have to deal with all the politics. You just got to deal with Arlington, but then you got to deal with whoever does that and say, okay, we want to build it now in Arlington. What tax breaks do we get? Do we pay any taxes at all? And everything else. So that's kind of where the problem now ensues with this damn stadium. So it's coming to a point now where it's like, screw it, just stay at Soldier Field. Like, whatever. We're tired of talking about it. But there's a lot of things that are going on that I don't understand, and I don't want to study how it works because I don't get it. Because I know if I go and say I want a property tax break, I'll get denied. So it's like, come on, like, but Kevin Warren has a good argument of, are we going to draw in more people? Do we make more money? But it's like, who are you making money for? The Bears, NFL in Illinois? Like I said, wherever they build it, Chicago, Arlington, you will bring in more money for the surrounding area. So if it's in Arlington, around there is just going to blow up with restaurants, bars, clothing stores, hotels, the train. It's going to boom everything. It's going to create jobs. Same thing in Chicago, and then that's going to create holding championships for the NCAA. Like, do you host a college football playoff game there? Do you host a bowl game? Do you host the Final Four? Do you host this? Because they're going to go to a dome. So they're going to be able to host that stuff. Do you host the state title games? They switch from Illinois to Illinois State. Do they host that now? Like, it's just this opportunities, more concerts, more of this, more of that. And that's what they're thinking.
Right. It's extra revenue. It's the modern stadium concept. It's why you see so many of these that are domes, especially bigger markets,
But that's why Illinois is probably like, okay, then why don't you get a loan then? Like, go out to these banks and figure out, and you'll be able to pay it back. And that's what they're saying. But the Bears are like, why do we want to go through that?
Yeah.
We have to pay our players. We don't want to be balancing all that out because you got to wait for it to get built and all this. So it's just this whole back and forth that I don't understand. But
it's like a Mexican standoff in the political sense is how I view it.
Hey, as long as I don't raise my taxes to pay for it, I don't care how it gets done. But that's the route that it's going to take, I think, is
right. Well, and keep in mind that Bears aren't there's nothing that they're going to do that that's like time sensitive. This isn't like the Cincinnati Bengals where like they have to like figure out their rental situation by the end of this year. Which that's a whole can of worms. I've been trying to keep up with that. And it's like, really? But yeah, they might, they're claiming they might pull the trigger and be like, well, we could leave. It's like, I don't know if you want to leave Cincinnati.
Yeah. Where are you going to go?
Do that? Like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if that's really the play. And that's like the side of like sports with like the contracts and the stadiums where I'm like, that's the part I hate following. Cause it's like, you're definitely leveraging because you're like, well, the city can't live without us. So we're just going to hold them at gunpoint and make them either cave, or we'll find someone that is desperate enough that wants that big engagement and local economic boom, kind of like how like with the Chiefs with theirs, how like the Kansas side of the state wants to bring them in because it'll be an economic boom to Kansas as a state and that area. So
right.
It like that's the type of thing where I'm like, this is the stuff it's a little scummy to me, but it's economics, right. I guess. Whatever.
Stuff that I don't understand, but
enough. Let's go and let's do the football stuff. You want to set the sideline this like the
like
how
brain
Kevin Ward.
My brain
like how Kevin Ward sidelines a one of his two plans every few months. Let's sideline this talk and go into maybe a little more football. And I'll let you pick. You want to talk OTAs? You want to talk this Caleb Williams book quote story that's been making the rounds on ESPN and FS1, or how do you want to do this?
Let's tackle the Caleb Williams thing because we'll just end up talking about Caleb Williams and OTAs.
Fair enough.
So what basically it come out that he didn't want it. His dad basically did not want him to go to Chicago. But see, here's my problem. So before we truly dive into that, didn't we already know that before the draft? Like it was said that he and dad talked about if Chicago picked him that he wasn't going to go and pull an Eli Manning. Like, so why is this? So before, as that comes out, I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't this already a thing and we've gotten over? Like, remember all that?
So I do remember this. No, Carl Williams was like all over this for like about a month before the draft. I remember his name was coming up a ton, like around like combine time, like all the workout time before the draft. He was like at some of these events and like would give quotes to media and would talk about how the Bears are a bad team and like put his opinion on it, which if we're playing by like the well, now it's more the Deion Sanders school of like father son NFL draft relations, they'll eat that up.
Talk about that too. Yeah,
I mean we can. I've had about my fill of that discussion, but we could certainly talk about it at some point because I'm like, dude, I'm out. Like I have tried so hard to clear my timelines of like any like Shedeur Sanders stuff because it's all these sensational like Colorado accounts that have transitioned to like talking like Browns. To where I'm like, whatever, dude, just get anyway to training camp and yeah.
But we have time, but
anyway. Yeah, no, and we can. You and I knowing how we do this, unless there's something coming up, we definitely have time. But this, so there's a lot more. It's not just Carl Williams saying like, "Oh, my son, maybe the Bears aren't the best fit." It's like a bunch of stuff. So some of the quotes that are coming from this, like from the Wickersham book that's supposed to come out in September, by the way. And I can't believe I'm reading this one. It says, quote, at one point, they even considered joining the UFL if it would give them a chance to be an unrestricted free agent in 2025. Pretty much how this whole thing reads. And it just keeps going like this is Carl Williams, seems to be more like Carl than Caleb, by the way, was not wanting his son to go to the worst team in the league and hated the notion of the draft, sending the best talents to the worst teams because they're stuck on bad programs in theory. And so it might affect their potential to grow and become stars and, reach their potential. You get slammed down. You're the next QB that failed, like how Justin Fields got critiqued. So you look at that. And so they're looking at options. Apparently that's one of them, which I'm still shocked that they would consider that, given that, I know Caleb would make promotion money, but like 50 at the time it was $55K a season for QB. But also they're talking pulling. He was talking about maybe we can pull an Eli Manning or a John Elway scenario, which was thrown around at the time by some people in like rumors. Bears said to him that they were going to draft him no matter what early in the process. So like that was what made this like a little more complicated. Eventually, Caleb told his dad, quote, "I wasn't ready to nuke Chicago," was apparently what Wickersham quotes. Now, Caleb's, of course, come out and said he has always been fine playing in Chicago, but it opened like a massive can of worms of like bringing back, like, is Caleb okay playing here? Was he really wanting to not go here? And he just kind of accepted his fate. Like, the man's been critiqued a lot. You're a Chicago QB. You're always going to get critiqued. But like, it just opened another like can of, like, again, this can of worms thing of like, is he really committed to this city? Kind of like how like would wait for Justin Fields to say something out of like off the cuff that would be a little off. So like everyone overreacts to it and he has to come back the next day and like correct his quote. And that's all this is. Like at this point, it's like he's drafted. What's he going to do? Like this is past stuff that's just kind of being brought up and is a big distraction thing. It's like, whatever to me. Like, I don't get why we're recircling back to like past things. It's gone. Like, he's not leaving, I don't see why he would at this point.
That's why I didn't really care to read all of it. I just kind of sort of watched videos on it because I didn't care enough because I remember it. Now, if this was the first time we ever heard about it, and let's say he said this 3 weeks ago or whatever, yeah, you could start to really critique him. But like, I remember that stuff coming out before the draft, and then he got drafted, went to the Bears. Then all of a sudden, it gets brought back up again, and I'm kind of like, who cares? And then it's like, is he really committed? I mean, his actions are showing me that he is committed. Now,
yes.
Now, I get it. First of all, I hate how these players' dads get so involved and they say these quotes, and it really it can hurt their own son. I didn't like the Eli Manning thing of like choosing where you play because it just gives you that vibe that you're so much better than everybody else. Like, I'm going to choose where I play. And I've got news for people. Like, if he's not really committed to the city of Chicago, he wouldn't be playing like it. But then that also hurts himself. So whenever he's like, well, the chance I get, I'm going to leave Chicago. Do you really think people are going to take chances on him knowing like, well, you weren't committed here? What makes me think you're going to be committed here if I'm the Oakland Raiders or something in a couple of years? Like, hey, we want to sign you, but what's with all this? You weren't committed to Chicago. And what makes us think you coming here? Like, so none of it really made that much sense. Now, I don't blame him saying like, hey, I have questions about Eberflus. I have questions about this and that. But remember when he got drafted, people were like, I know the Bears sucked this year, but I'm just trying to remind people, like, going into it, remember when everybody was saying, oh, this is like the most perfect situation for a rookie quarterback because you have these players that are surrounding him. This isn't your typical first round pick going to a place that has no weapons, has nothing, right? And the reason why we're getting those picks is because you got to give credit. We made some trades and you were able to get certain picks. So I don't understand, like, why are they coming out with this now where everything's looking like, and we're going to get to it, like, things are looking up and we can't jump the gun on anything, but like, you get Ben Johnson as your head coach. He makes great hires as assistant coaches. They've had a phenomenal free agency and the draft was pretty good. And even then they just got that offensive lineman from Kansas City not too long ago. So like they are addressing the needs and things are looking on the up and up. And then all of a sudden you want to come out with this where you refresh my memory. One thing we gave credit to Justin Fields was he had decent press conferences. Now, once in a while, he'll have frustrations get a hold of him, which, okay, Caleb Williams really hasn't had those that of press conferences, right? And he's kind of saying the right things. And so I just don't understand why all of a sudden it had to come out.
I mean, comparing it to Justin Fields, he's pretty much kept his head down even more than Justin did like early in his career. And Justin did later on, I think that's part of frustration part. I think, letting a little bit slip out about how he was talked about in the media or by fans later on before him and Chicago moved on and went their separate ways. But like Caleb's been playing the PR game to a team, I think perfectly out here, for how ravenous Bears media is with asking questions or like running with stories on the local airwaves or TV or, newspaper scene. So I got no qualms with that. I would never have qualms with it anyway. I just think that some markets just get ravenous, like, the New Yorks, the Philadelphias, the Chicagos of the world. They're all just, whoa, over the top, Then you got Dallas because Jerry Jones likes attention, so everything's fine to Jerry. It doesn't really matter. Chicago here, it's more about like, are you performing well? But then like 3 steps above that is, how's the QB doing? Is this QB finally it? Should we, overanalyze every little bit about the quarterback and doing that? And that's this part about the whole thing where it's like dragging up. And I agree, this story's old to me. There's a few new details about like some of the things that Carl Williams was talking about, which, by the way, this is what drives me nuts. Yes, it's a Caleb Williams story, but it's really a story about his dad. Like Caleb, everything in this, like this write-up or like the section of this book that focuses on Caleb is all about Caleb. Like, no, I don't want to rock the boat. I want to go to Chicago. Let's not do that. It's more like his dad being a concerned parent, and fine, but with a decision like this, I mean, like, that's where you get into like, I think, little wishy-washy things that I don't know if the NFL wants to, and this is where we can maybe kind of talk about the Shador thing, and I haven't seen this talked enough. Like, I know people have been like, well, Eli and Archie pulled this whole thing with like, playing the game and, playing their way. And I'm like, I look at the Shador thing from this past draft. I'm like, I don't know about you, but like, do you think the NFL put their foot down on stuff like this? Like, that was the message? Because like, do you really want to relive that 2004 draft of being like, well, now we got to have a messy trade and hope to God this works out for both of us? And like, that's what I viewed it as, where it's like, screw this. I'm going to move. I'm not going to have this drama in my life. You want to slide in the draft and, be perceived this way, go right ahead, or I'll pick you up later. I think that's what that message was with Shador. And honestly, I think maybe, I don't know, it could have played out that way with Caleb in a way, maybe not. I mean, the generational talent thing's been always on Caleb's shoulder since he was at Oklahoma and then went to USC. But like, maybe not a 5th round slide, but like something like that comes up and you have like a character talk and it's like how involved someone is in your background. Some teams just don't want that drama. Like, I think people don't realize that like not every NFL team, a lot of them are not like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, where like they have to be in the media scene. Every little thing matters because that's what they want to be, because they have to keep that value up because they're America's team. They're the biggest brand in the NFL. Some teams just don't want that crap. They want to just go and do their business. And that, I think, is where the rub is, where it's like, yeah, I'm glad that this played out where Caleb was like, yeah, I'm just going to go play for Chicago, and play at this pick, because it's not, the organization has avenues to change, and, it's not a bad situation. But like, it drives me nuts because this could have ended up completely different if you are like, all right, we're going to play this holdout game. And I just don't think the NFL would tolerate that after seeing the Eli situation, 20 years prior. So,
well, the whole Shador thing, I did my own episode on, and I'm like, and I tweeted this a lot. I'm like, it's interesting you brought that up because I didn't think of it, but I kept saying, you can't tell me that every single NFL team called each other and said, please don't pick this dude. Like, we cannot have this. And I just don't believe that the
happened. Amount of stories that were out there is where I'm like, okay, come on. Like, you can't tell me that doesn't affect, if you have so many bad interviews that are consistently the same message, worst interviews, not, I mean, yes, there is, you can break the mold, but like, any professional thing, you still have to kind of play the game a little bit, and it seemed like that kind of played in the wrong direction too, which you could have played like that for Caleb,
Well, you had Deion say like, no, you had Deion come out and say, yeah, but realistically, I don't want him to play for these certain teams, but there was nothing done to where he was like, well, we're not going to play for these teams. I love how he kept saying we,
right?
Like, we.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, he's attached to the hip, and that's something you do get, is you're going to have Deion. He might say he's not, but he's already done this. But the second part of it is, and this is the thing I think is the one that if I'm sticking out in the early process, lest we forget, this man went on in the public record and said, we could pull an Eli. We may pull an Eli. Like the man said this on a podcast.
He did. That's a
Like
fantastic.
you don't think an NFL or NFL teams look at and go like, you're already thinking about it? And Deion's even more powerful of a figure, way more than Carl Williams, the dad of Caleb Williams. I mean, man, like that's where I'm like really starting on the wrong foot. Again, right. I think a lot of teams look at that 04 situation with Eli and Archie, which Archie has always said he felt like it was none of his decision, even though he was in all the video footage of the draft day and whatnot. He's always claimed he never had a decision in the making of like what Eli did. But like those optics, the way that played out 21 years ago at this time, it's like, yeah, I think teams don't want that again, you know, because that was like a really awkward moment in NFL history.
Right. And which, again, the NFL doesn't want that to happen. So maybe it did. Maybe somebody told those NFL teams, do not draft this kid. But I just have
always that chance.
There's always that chance. There's always that chance. I just can't believe that would happen. And I said this. I was like, yeah, it couldn't be because of the baggage of his dad coming in. There's no way that was a possibility, like sarcasm. Like, there's no way that's a possibility. And I said, or there's no way it's because he's not as good as everybody thinks he is. And it happened with the whole jersey retirement thing that I blew up about. I was like, if you want to retire Travis Hunter, well, this is what I said. I said, if you want to retire Travis Hunter's jersey, cool. Like, that was the only one I could kind of see. I didn't think he should have won the Heisman because they made up stats just to get him the Heisman, because I didn't realize that you could take offensive stats and defensive stats and say, this is why you win the Heisman. I was like, when Tim Tebow won the Heisman, it wasn't because he had a tackle on interception. It was because he was a quarterback. You know what I mean? Or a linebacker wins it or whatever. But I accepted it. I said, oh, you know what? I can't take it away. It's done. If you want to retire Travis Hunter's jersey, cool. By all means.
And I think that's a logical one to do. Heisman Trophy winner? I mean, that's a big, significant award, you know?
He was electric. I can't take that away from him. He did good things in the college game. But the whole Shedeur Sanders retiring his record was 13-12 as a player at Colorado. And so I just went down the players' names of Colorado players that should have whatever. Right. So I said, this is Deion Sanders saying, like, you better retire my kid's jersey. You cannot tell me otherwise. But anyway, to the draft part, I was like, there's no way. You know, maybe it's because he's not that good. Yeah, you can look at stats, and I understand that. But I said, if you watch film, they must have found something. But then it's one thing to have bad film or take a chance. Because I'm not saying Caleb Williams, he had the one really good year at USC, then his next year wasn't as – he had the numbers, but the wins weren't there. But you didn't have quite the baggage. Like, even though his dad could say whatever he wants, that's not Deion Sanders' baggage. You know, it's a completely different ball game. So for Shedeur, it was, okay, the film isn't all there. Okay. His attitude on the field, they have to consider that. Then do we want to deal with the baggage? I think that's why he fell so far, because they were like, you know, yeah, we can work with some bad film. We can develop him and everything else. That's not a problem. He just wouldn't be taken to the second round in that situation. So, but you're like, we could develop him. You know, he's athletic and blah, 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 blah. But then if you just keep adding and adding what they're going to have to deal with. So to me, the whole Caleb Williams thing, apparently it wasn't a situation. The Bears looking at it going, you know, okay, maybe his dad did say this. The Bears knew he probably said all this. But if Caleb went into an interview and said, hey, this isn't an issue. If you draft me, I'm coming here. This is not something that is going to be an issue. Cool. And it hasn't been like all last year. I'm sure his dad probably had some thoughts, but we all probably had the same thoughts of like, what the hell's going on?
Right. Yeah.
But I'm sure his dad is fine now. Like, look at the linemen they've got. Look at like who they spent some money. So that's why it was just to kind of, if you want to wrap it up, it was just weird, the timing of it. Of if this came out right when the draft happened, totally understand. But the fact that you want to bring it out now is like, there's no issues. Like right now, there is no issues of that stuff going on with the Bears. So it's not a Shedeur Sanders thing. I'm sure everybody's dad has an opinion when they get drafted, and
Yes.
the caliber, it depends, and depends if the parent goes public, if they keep it to themselves, you know, and people are now going after Caleb for this, which doesn't make any sense. Like, why are we going after him for? And
The past is the past, man. Like I think he did a lot to prove he's completely fine being here last year. I don't. That's what drives me nuts. It's like, dude, just let this story die. Like it's already gone. Like why do you have to drag him out for a press conference and make a quote about his commitments here? Like I thought he proved that very well last year. Of his commitments, he seemed very in touch and energized for the most part about being with his team. So like, I don't get it. I know he had a bad year last year with like the whole Shane Waldron tape watching thing, which I've read both sides of the argument on that. Like Kurt Warner was like adamantly, funny enough, like on the other side, I was like, does anyone supposed to be taught how to watch tape? It was interesting hearing it from like a Hall of Fame quarterback in that regard. But on the other side, it's like, well, wait a minute, if the coach isn't working with you every day, whatever. But like,
well,
beyond that, it's just I don't know. I'm done like hearing like weird stories. Like let the dude play. Like,
yeah, like the Bears clean slate with the coaching staff. Just let this go. Just let it go.
Like I'd rather talk more about Ben Johnson's take on the tush push and how it's quote not an exciting play. Which to me I think deserved way more talk, and it didn't get that much airwaves compared to that. So
he did say that, didn't he?
Yeah, which the Bears were one of the teams that voted to not keep the tush push. Which to that I say boo-hoo. My opinion, I don't think it's worth banning personally. And there's teams that have proven you can stop it. Just stop it. It's that simple. Adjust, adapt. The NFL does this all the time, is how I view it.
Yeah.
The other side's the safety thing, but like, I don't know. Is there good statistics claiming it's been a terrible play for safety?
I think it was because in the Super Bowl where you had that one defensive lineman for Kansas City come out because of like his neck from it.
Oh, Chris Jones.
That's what stirred it up a little bit because the poor Kansas City Chiefs.
There was that, and then in the NFC Conference Championship game, remember they almost gave an automatic score to the Eagles because of two neutral zone in a row penalties that Washington scored. If it was 3 in a row, and again, I didn't know this, and I think most people didn't realize this either, 3 straight penalties like that, they automatically award a score.
Right.
So, I think the play, it's stoppable. It's been proven in times you can stop it. You just got to adapt to it, or adjust defense, play better defense. Don't get you in the situation where you're doing a 4th and 1.
Well, that's what I'm curious about with the tush push is how many times did the Eagles actually run that play in the regular season? And
yeah,
I'm sure it's a lot, but it's probably not as much as other plays. And so the NFL is probably like, get them to a 4th and 2 then, or
right.
Like you can't take something away that. Yeah, it's tough to stop. I'm not saying that. Because I know in high school we can't really do that, but the NFL they can.
Do they have a specifically saying they banned that alignment, or
no?
Like
you
for
can't
Illinois,
push.
like for Illinois high schools.
We can line up like that, but we can't push. So it's weird. Like you can't really push the quarterback now. Teams have done it, not like that, but like if a running back is in a pile and one of our offensive linemen comes swooping in and hits the pile and pushes them forward, there's been like no penalty for that.
Let's say that was part of the talk was maybe the NFL, they should consider bringing back the old policy on assisting players with ball movement across the plane or moving them downfield with like pushing or pulling a body, which the NFL kind of abolished a few of those rules from what the sounds of it is, made it more flexible to where you could put more push, less pull. And now the talk is, well, what if we just adjust the push rules to be more specific? It's like, see, now you're getting over technical, and
that's really hard to ref.
Yeah. And do we really need more judgment ref calls, especially on like stuff like that, where the game is based on some of these short yardage plays and, they can make or break a game, super dramatic stuff, I don't need that.
Philadelphia Eagles have run the tush push play 108 times in the past 3 years, according to ESPN. This is 34% of the league's total tush push attempts during that time. They have scored 27 of the 52 tush push touchdowns. So they've run the play 108 times in 3 years. Do you know how many plays they run in a season? A ton. I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
A ton.
At least a few. At least, I mean, if I have to go right off the cuff, it's definitely up mid to high hundreds right off the cuff. You know,
you run 60 or 70 plays a game.
yeah. So I mean, you're pushing high hundreds. You know, and if you're even lucky, you can get like to 1,000. You know, if you're doing that efficient, if you're a good enough offense, at least.
Now, the reason why they get rid of it is because of that. So if they run it 52 times to score and they've scored 27 times of the 52, that's where they don't want to have it.
Yeah, but here's the rub, though, to me, is that, you know, you look at that percentage on the touchdowns, that's just over 50. I think that that's pretty solid for a success or fail rate if you're talking about competition standard. You know, I thought it was a higher success rate than that. So,
yeah, so
to say that, I'm like, why are you banning? You've proven you can stop it. You know, it's getting better to getting stops with the last few years. You know, defenses adapt. That's the thing. You know, offenses always find that innovation first. Defenses catch up. It's a classic NFL push and pull. We've seen this throughout the history of the league. So I always find a rule ban like that is ridiculous because defensive coordinators are smart enough to figure this out at some point. They'll know to find a way to slow it down. If it's just over 50, you don't need to ban it. That's not a crazy, like that's a success rate. That's positive, but it's not like what I thought was like going to be 70 or like up high 70s, low 80s percentage, which it's not. So I don't know. I'm glad that I'm glad that it was voted no. Also, the funny fact, the dichotomy that Ben Johnson didn't and his team didn't want it, but you know, Detroit wanted it to stay around.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked about that from Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson's more of a creative offensive mind, so maybe
the splash play guy. Yeah.
Which I mean, and maybe he's thinking about the quarterback. I don't know. Maybe it's because Caleb Williams is not that type of quarterback, and Jalen Hurts is, and who knows? Who knows why? Maybe he was told from uppers like to get rid. I don't know. You never know why to get rid of it. Maybe his defense coordinator is like, "You better vote to get rid of it because I don't want to deal with this." Allen. Like, who knows? Who knows?
Whatever.
And how many teams run it? Like, I'm sure everybody does it, but like Philadelphia Eagles are the team to do it.
Near every team does. I mean, shoot, man. I think like, yeah, Philadelphia was successful this postseason, but like, you know, a team failed on a few occasions in a crucial game with that play. Buffalo. If you remember that botched 4th and 1 that was not called a conversion late in that contest, the one that allowed Kansas City to drive down the field, take the leading score, and then force Buffalo to have to drive and hopefully get a miracle catch from Dalton Kincaid. That was a tush push. That was a failed tush push play that they didn't convert. And whether that was not converted or not, it didn't get converted. Like that's again, it's a example of the opposite effect right there.
Well, that's the thing that people need to realize on an offensive perspective is if you're going to do something, you got to practice it over and over. And the Philadelphia Eagles practice that play a lot, I'm sure, because there is
without a doubt. Like it's hilarious because it's Kansas City who stopped it, who eventually played Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. You know, like it's not like you can't stop it. It's just teams are very, I got to play it and I score and I get angry when I see it. Whatever. It's very frustrating to listen to this play and how it's discussed in NFL circles.
Right. But yeah, it's shocking that Ben Johnson kind of wanted to get rid of it. You would think you would want anything in the world, especially with the team you want to get to win now. 4th and goal, inch line. How do you get in? You would think.
You would think.
You would think Caleb Williams, hey, you're a tough guy. Or hell, put in a running back to take the snap and do it. Like, you know, just whatever. There's a lot of creative ways.
One would think, but you know, sometimes it's a little too hard. It's okay. Either way, it survives at least another year. I don't know how it works for like approaching with the same change. Like if it's like you have to wait a longer period of time or whatnot, but like
they could probably bring it up every year. Like every year they could be like, hey, on our board minutes is
actually push. You know what? you definitely can bring it up because they've always brought up like, for example, replay assist. I know that I think like 3 or 4 years in a row, teams were bringing that up as like, we should do replay assist or some like sky judge thing like the spring leagues would do,
Yeah, so
and now they've expanded upon it.
it's kind of like a school board thing where you could bring up any topic and they present it. So if the NFL and coaches and GMs are like, hey, we want to bring this up again, and they discuss it, and you can bring it up at the end of the season again and be like, we want to talk about the tush push. We want to talk about this because it didn't get passed last time. Same thing at Illinois. It's like our IHSAs, every single year rules get voted on, and sometimes it's the same rules and they get brought up every year. And like in Illinois, we have conferences. They've talked about districting the state of Illinois, where like now you just play teams that are close to you instead of conferences in high school football.
Interesting.
And it gets brought up every single year for the past like 4 years, every year.
Is that any way tied to your disdain for the academy and private school versus public school debate that we always have once in a while on the show?
It was tied to that just a hair, but another part of it was the conferences are kind of washed down to an extent because most of the time you can leave. So like if you join a conference and you just leave the next 2 years, like and some teams trying to find the perfect conference due to enrollment, due to competitiveness. But then when you do that, the travel. So it was just a bunch of teams trying to make their problems everybody's problems.
I see.
Like if a team is super good and they've been good forever and they just have it rolling, it's a public school. And they're like, yeah, but our conference, we're just rolling through it. We want to go play in this conference because they got tougher teams, but then it's probably you're traveling far. So they just kind of want to do that. And they're like, well, if you do districts, you're just playing teams that are enrollment wise. That's what they're looking at is like. So I remember it actually got passed like 3 years ago. It was passed. Like we're going to go to districts. But then it got brought up again because all the athletic directors and stuff were like, well, wait a minute. It got passed. Where's your rough draft? What's this going to look like? They didn't have one. They just wanted to pass it.
You got to have a framework if you're going to propose something like that. So
then they got one made. They wanted to re-vote for it, and it got turned down because then the reality kind of smacked people of like, it basically would help out the suburbs, like the suburbs up in this area. It would work for.
Sure.
You start going down to Central Illinois, Southern Illinois, Eastern Illinois, like that's who it would hurt because I have an enrollment of 1,200. The schools all around me are 700. Well, I can't play them. So I'm going to have to travel from Carbondale, Illinois up to Danville, Illinois for 2.5 hours to play a team or 3 hours. That's what you're telling me. And that's my district. Like that makes no sense. I might as well just play in a conference down here. And the same thing up here. It would help out schools up here, but there'd be some schools it was going to hurt. And so it was like a select few just trying to make their problems everybody else's problems.
No, I get it. Yeah.
But it's just, like going back to the board thing, you can always bring it up and be re-voted on. I think NFL is probably more strict. You can't bring it up now that it's voted down. You can't bring it up in August again because it's too close to the season.
Yeah, I think you got to wait. You got to wait till next cycle and all that stuff. If I'm remembering correctly. But I don't see. I mean, honestly, I don't see it going away. If it for some reason creates any level of controversy, I think someone will instantly bring it up again. Or think of it like a political thing where it's like, well, if we just get like those 2 votes and flip them, because it lost out by 2 votes. It needed 24, it got 22.
Well, so, that's probably what they're thinking is
like what are the 2 teams we can flip?
Right. And maybe those 2 teams get hurt by the tush push against them. So like, hey guys, see if you voted, then we don't have to like.
Yeah.
But I also think it's stupid when you keep taking away things that.
Just leave it alone. Like like I said, the success rate thing where it's only like 50-ish%, like just leave it alone. You can stop it. It's going to keep going. That percentage is going to keep decreasing over time is what our argument should be here. So,
well, like you said, anytime offenses become very, new. So NFL was a run league for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Defenses got decently good at stopping the run. It become more pass heavy. Now you're seeing same thing in college and high school where the spread and everything else, like throw it around, do this, do that, has become very popular.
Yeah.
Colleges and stuff, if you want to look at college, they've now recruited to where we have to have these specific players in order to stop this. But what's happening in college? Well, then the RPOs become big. Well, you got to get the right athletes and the right scheme to stop it. They've caught up,
Yep.
So then now what's starting to happen is you're seeing run plays, and that's kind of where I think the tush push comes into effect, where the Eagles said, well, they're catching up to all of this. We need something to just get us that. So if it's 4th and 1, 4th and inches, we used to just get under center and try a quarterback sneak, but they could stop the momentum. We've tried handing it off to the running back. We've tried to go spread. We've tried to do this. What if we just do this?
I don't know.
Now, most of the time, defenses have caught up. It takes a little bit, but they catch up. Now what you're going to see is if the Eagles sub really quick, or if it does get to that, the defense are going to have some type of player package where it's like, okay, this is the players we need to stop the tush push. And then what's going to happen is offenses are going to get smart and say, well, if we line up in the tush push with these specific players, but we actually pass the ball, or if we actually do this, what if we get them into that package, we get into the tush push situation, but then we shift and we go to this, they don't have the players to stop it, so they got to call a timeout. Like, just that type of stuff is going to catch up. It always does.
It will. And look, I think again, I think it's funny, like a QB sneak with one running back, no problem. Add a second one, okay, now it's my problem. And the other thing I've always laughed at is like, well, it doesn't look like football. It's like, well, the origins of football come from rugby, so technically it kind of does, because it looks like rugby play. And then my final thing is, well, if that's banned, then you're just going to see more iterations. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. I like this one today. So UFL games on. It's Memphis and Birmingham. Memphis lines up with a very unique, in my eyes, package. They basically go 10 linemen. 3 of them are eligible in the backfield. And they're off to like the strong side. But they're kind of like 2 of them are shaded off of like the tackle tight end spot. One's outside of the box of that lineman's alignment. They call it grenade. Basically, you have the entire setup that is the line, the true line, crashes left. The 3 that are the big boys that are basically the eligible runners crash right. You create a 1-yard play. So there you go.
Hey, you know what's funny? Right before you said that, I am on here, and a account called Fullbacks put this up there right as you were talking about it.
That's what I'm saying. That's grenade. They call that formation grenade.
I'm stealing this probably.
Oh no, a lot of people were like, dude, why has this not been like more consistently used in the NFL? Because I don't recall anything immediate that's like, I know a team has used this before. There's maybe a chance, but it was like, well, this is kind of a great way to use like a short yardage setup.
Yeah, so the tush push is just a different way. But yes, that was awesome. But that's the same thing. And people are like, well, this isn't real football. Did they not watch football way back in the day?
Football changes all the damn time.
Wing T's were doing that. Wing T's have been doing that stuff.
Like, to be realistic, like all that, like, you know what that is to me? Like, and it is still cool. But basically, it's almost like it's like you're doing a strong side T formation with shotgun instead of doing it under center and aligning everyone directly behind the quarterback. It's like an alternative. It's like a T formation alt version. That's how I viewed it. But like, it's weird. So like, if it keeps being successful, that's when you see like teams, I think, get like awkward. Is they'll be like, well, it's too successful and it's just so foreign. We just can't have it. It's not football. It's like, no, football changes all the time. You know,
it changes all the time. And what's the difference between that and like the tush push is just hitting now?
Right.
That, like, or like in high school, I know you can't do it in the NFL and college anymore. In high school, we can still cut. Like, the lineman can still cut up front. Now, there's rules where it's from offensive tackle to offensive tackle. So if they line up where the tight end is, you cannot cut them. You
Yeah.
cannot have a lineman hold somebody up and they come from the side. You cannot cut a blitzing linebacker. There's a box. It's the defensive lineman's heels to the offensive lineman's heels, and it has to be now. When I played, you could kind of go up and then down. It's like they influence him to come up and then you go down. Well, now it's got to be now. But there's drills. Like our D linemen do drills. You throw bags at them and they learn how to push and all that stuff. But we do that at the high school level. So it's like football adapts. So if we cut them, there's a way you have to coach them. And then what happens? This happened the very first game of the year last year. We cut them 3 times. Their defensive linemen started to line up, I kid you not, a yard or 2 off the ball because that was their way of adapting to it was we don't know when we're going to be cut, so line up far off. So then we were like, so that's where we start running the ball. I was like, okay, now we're going to run the ball. Bam, because they're already 2 yards off the ball. Like, bam.
I'll be honest, I used to love in high school football doing cut blocks. Like,
oh, it was the best.
Because the thing is, you execute one properly, and it's like the most defeating thing for the guy that's in front of you. Like you get held up for just long enough, he can't get off you, or it'd be great for pass plays. There was one guy, I'm not even joking, and credit, they did adapt. It's funny. In my senior year, this is a great way of showing adapting, and like again, example we're talking. So we played him twice. First time we played him, we cut blocked the shit out of them. Like this one dude, they had a nose tackle was like easily in high school, like a 350+ pound boy, 6'4", just utter mongoloid of a person for a high schooler. And we were like, he would line up in like the guard center, like A gap, where it was like, okay, one of us has to get him. So, plan it midway through a game, and I'm talking with coaches and we're adjusting. It's like, we'll just keep cut blocking him. And eventually the guy got cut. I will never forget this. I cut blocked this guy to where he just collapsed. He had too much of the damn thing and just ran out of energy and just fell the hell down. The regional game we then played later, going in for our state championship playoff setting, they moved him specifically over guard because they knew that I was going to either cut block him or I was going to stand up and get the guy. And so they basically like, yeah, you're just going to line up on right directly on the guard or in the B gap the entire game because we're not going to let you just get cut blocked and like taken out because of this guy.
Oh yeah.
But it was like, I felt great about it, but also screwed us because like it was a great adjustment. It actually hurt us and we lost eventually in a final drive. But like that's beside the point. Like it's an adapt thing. Like,
but like that's what you said, adapt.
Yeah.
So they have to adapt to the tush push, which that's your job. It sucks.
D coordinators in football are like engineers in real life. They solve practical problems, but in a football sense. New plays made. How do we fix this problem? How do we stop this problem? Let's work on it. Let's test it. And eventually you find a solution or something that's pretty damn close to a solution. So, I mean, hey, man, Wildcat used to be a thing for 2 years, and now it's a specialty play. It's not even considered a realistic option for offense anymore.
Well, that's
in terms of like that scale.
So when the Dolphins were doing it, it was unstoppable. They always got what they wanted. It was everybody started doing it for the next like 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden it became, oh, wait a minute, they can only do like 3 things out of this, and your quarterback is lined up out there in the slot. We're not even going to worry about him.
Oh, none of these running back options were QBs that in maybe college, or they can't have or they don't have an arm. All right, well, it's going to probably be a run or something predictable like a run.
Right.
That's like going to just be an RPO. It. Yeah.
Oh, they're going to they're going to jet, read, counter this way or power this way. So if we take away the jet and we have something like just let them play, let them do what they do. And then defenses, you just have to find the right personnel package to, which you would think it's 3rd and 2, 4th and 1. You have a big boy package in there anyway, like in the box. Just a thought.
Yeah. Oh, this QB's not mobile. All right. Well, screw it. We'll just not cover the QB. We'll pretend we're out there, and then we're just going to have the guy either shade or immediately bail on that coverage.
Right.
So we're really playing 10 versus 11 at this point.
Well, the Bears have ended OTAs.
Yes.
Did they end it, or is it done now?
I believe it's done. Let me see here. Day 5 OTAs concluded on the 30th. I don't know if OTAs are fully done. So that was this past week. Bears OTA schedule. Let's double check this because I am not fully sure. Okay, so yes, they end the second stretch of it ended this week. Their final OTA scheduling is the 9th through the 11th. And they also have mandatory minicamp June 3rd to 5th, and then the rookie minicamp already happened May 9th through 11th. So got a few more of those lighter kind of practices before we really hit into the meat and potatoes of training camp coming in July.
Well, I don't have a lot of info because I truly hate when people are like, look at the dimes this quarterback's throwing. I'm looking at the video. Oh, it's 7-on-7, or they're running routes and they're throwing these dimes.
Yeah, I don't really like this is the time of year, like, we have like the hype beast type of stuff where everyone's reading in between the lines of like OTA and like coaches' comments and all. I don't know about you. I have like anytime it's this time of year, I'm like, I'll read it and I'll be like, that's great. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just gonna wait till training camp. Like I'll more start focusing on those comments and things when we get into training camp and preseason talk before I look at OTAs as like the end all be all discussion on how this team's going to look for next year.
Right. And it wasn't the Bears one that made me mad. It was the Justin Fields one. They were like, oh, the Bears gave up on him too early.
Yeah.
Look at this time he's throwing. And I said, let's see what he does when there's a defensive line going after him. Let's see what this, like, you can look at mechanics, which is fine. If you want to talk about, look at his mechanics and this, like his footwork looks better. Yeah, let's have that conversation. But I'll still also say footwork's easy when you don't have a D line coming after you. So, but like if they wanted to come back to Caleb Williams and be like, okay, Ben Johnson fixed his stance. Look how he drops back from under center. Look at those drills. Cool. Let's have those conversations. But or even but see, I'm also on the flip side. Oh, he threw 2 interceptions today. Blah 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 blah. You can't really judge that either. So if I'm gonna sit here and say, oh, he looks good, but then I say that, but he also had a bad day. He can have a bad day. That's fine.
It happens. I mean, dude, yeah, it happens. Plus, let's also keep in mind, contextualize your team's defense. Arguably, will know your offense the best every single week. You play the same people with the system that you should know because you play the same system in practices every week the most. So you will probably play your best. The defense will be the toughest, arguably, against your own offense and vice versa. So I don't know. Again, 7-on-7, it's not really hitting or anything, and you're gonna have guys that are gonna pull back a little on certain plays because they don't want to beat themselves up in a practice setting. Like, saying this ain't a few decades ago, like NFL CBAs are like way different now than they were back in the day with this stuff.
I don't know if these are all true, but so the OTAs that happened, there was a part of me trying to go to one of these practices to watch, but I don't know if I'll make it. I don't want to drive there. If it was the old school practices they had, and I don't know if they're going to do it again, like to Olivet, maybe I would. Just to drive to Hallis Hall, I don't want to do it.
That's fair.
If this is true, they said Ben Johnson, before he was hired, he gets after it. Like, he doesn't look like a guy that gets after it, like he gets after it. And apparently he has gotten after Caleb Williams a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess he made a comment to Cole Kmet about stop fucking doing podcasts or something and worry about your job or something like that. I don't know the exact quote, man. But
I've heard he is dead. Like anything I've read on Ben Johnson, similar as you, he comes off as like this very like dead serious, like takes no shit or a prisoner's guy whatsoever. Which I mean, they do need that guy compared to like a Matt Eberflus type from last few years. But that'll be funny with like Kmet, where it's like he's literally doing CHGO content on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know if it was true, but at least I know that he was getting after Cole Kmet. That's that. I will say that. I don't know if that was the exact thing, or
Sure.
like maybe he was getting after him saying, if you weren't so focused on your podcast, maybe you could do this. Maybe that was more of the quote, because that'd be something I would say. Like, but he told them all there's no depth chart right now. Like,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
earn
yeah.
everything. But he gets after them. Like he's not letting, and then he come up to a press conference and was like, "We're going to let nothing slide. Like nothing is going to slide here." And then there's a video of Eric Bieniemy coaching the running backs. I love it. He is
Yes.
tough on them. He was
And
yelling at them for their eyes. He was like, "Where the f are your eyes at? What is wrong with you?" And it's like, wow. And I think that's what the Bears needed. They needed this. So that's the reason why I'm considering driving out there, is because I want to see Ben Johnson lose it. I want to see him yell at them. I want to see what this is about. I want to shake his hand.
Eric Bieniemy has had a reputation for being like super intense. So that does not shock me. Like he's built that up from like Washington, the end of the Kansas City days. So that doesn't surprise me. Ben Johnson, he comes off as like a cool customer, but like all the interviews, he sounds like he's like, I'm going to be a hard ass in a way on players. And, we're running this as a tight ship this year,
which he probably learned in his Detroit Lions days.
Likely so. I mean, Dan Campbell clearly knows how to do camaraderie to a T. Like that is like the de facto guy on building like camaraderie in like a team family setting. So no surprise there, I guess. But can you execute and keep that up? We'll see. I think it's going well so far, it sounds like. I mean, media says they like him, which I mean, hey, who does? To be fair, it's going to be hard to screw up being a first-year head coach unless you like purposely are like an Adam Gase, or you get like a meme cringe type of vibe from like the internet, like over in Duval.
You want to talk about
hang on, let me see if I can do this right. Duval.
That was one of the most awkward
gold
things of all time. It made my skin crawl.
The awkward press conference, the jumping around to see won't he still be with Tampa Bay? All genius.
I'm trying to see if there was that quote and I can't find it. I don't think it was real, but I was hoping it was real.
Yeah, I've been kind of like trying to type it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like again, it gives the vibe where it's like, I think Ben wants these guys to be focused, because like I will say, like, yes, Matt Eberflus does, I feel like, get plenty of attributing factors to how this panned out last year and like through his tenure. But like when you do get a little lax on some things, players, I think, in a professional setting or in like any professional setting of job, some of us do tend to take advantage of some of those lackadaisical items that don't get like tightened up once in a while. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on. Is it's like, okay, this is my culture. I'm going to be like this. Get used to it in a way.
Right. So I'm wondering if he said anything about his podcast stuff. He probably said it in the terms of, if you weren't to worry about your podcast stuff, you would have made this catch or something like that, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, motivator type of thing.
Because again, that's something I would say. I've actually said that to kids. Like, if you weren't so worried about this, maybe you would have done this. Like, I for sure have said that.
If you weren't on Fortnite last night, maybe you...
Oh, I have said that. I've said, if you weren't up till 2 a.m., because kids will come in and they just let it fly. They're like, oh, yeah, you could hear them talking about what they were playing. And I've said that. I'm like, well, if you weren't so worried about this, you might have caught the ball. You might have made that block. You might have paid attention to, the play.
Yeah.
I've said it.
Maybe you're right. You might be right there.
I can't find it. I wish I would have saved it.
It's likely you'll find it. What'll be funny is you'll probably find it like after we end the show or something like that.
Or it's a video and I just don't want to listen to it right now.
Yeah, you got to pull that up and find it. Would not be shocked that this is an actual thing. Because like, again, like Cole is almost at this point, he's a regular, and correct me if I'm wrong, he has like an employed podcast through CHGO, like that he does on a weekly basis. Yes, I don't fully follow all his media stuff in Chicago, but I know he does more than just guest appearances. So
the only thing I found is that he went up to, like, especially Cole Kmet, and said, "You don't have a starting spot. Like, you have to."
And to be fair, I am fascinated to see what happens with Cole because, again, yes, the argument in the draft is, well, now you have two like starting caliber tight ends, but like flip side of the coin, rookie tight end on a rookie deal, who's your number one overall draft pick, re-signed tight end who was, you can argue offense was not efficient, but was also very disappointing. And they still haven't figured out how to get the guy active for the amount of money they're paying him. So
that's the only thing I'm finding right now is that he put his career on notice when they drafted the tight end out of Michigan. And it was like,
yeah, I'd raise my eyebrows too if Colston Loveland got picked and I was like, wait a minute, I still have a few years on a deal I just signed.
Yeah, I gotta be careful with stuff you read.
Right. And not to mention, like, they both play a similar role. They're both more pass catching heavy tight ends, less of the blocking aesthetic type of tight end. It's interesting. Nothing's going to happen this year. They'll definitely use both in a good capacity, but like, it's something to keep an eye on down the road.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find it later on and be like, look, I found it. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, let's see here. The Caleb Williams stuff. I mean, I got Bears Wire. I was reading that before I jumped on. There's stuff saying like he was struggling with a few like the over the middle passes in day 5 of OTAs last week, and some things need to get cleaned up there, I guess.
But which again, it's a brand new offense coming in,
right?
So that's why I hate these reports. Was it because it was a bad throw? Was it because he's trying to get used to the timing of like where they're going to be in the routes? Mm-hmm. If they're going against their defense for a 7-on-7, it is a different defensive scheme as well. So he's trying to read all that because Allen is very good at this guy. Like just a lot of things that could be going on. So now if this was September and these reports are coming out, yeah, you're a little more worrisome, but It is all brand new. And so they have different camps, and then they'll come back and do other camps in the summer, and then they're going to have their August one. So it's like, now they're getting used to it. And then what should hopefully happen is Caleb and the receivers go out on their own when they're not with them and try this stuff. And, so all those reports, it's content. So like if I went, I would come back to you on here and say, hey, I was there. This is what happened. It is content stuff, but you just have to, for like CHGO, like as much as I talk bad about them, I haven't listened to an episode in months and months and months and months. But I do give them credit coming up with different topics and content to come up with in the summer. So that's all that is content stuff to talk about, which I respect. But
I mean, shoot, man, outside of baseball, once like the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals end, like that's considered like for media purposes, like the dead period of like sports media. Because I mean, it's mostly off-season content, and unless you're like a heavily involved baseball show, or you're like me, where I'm like one of these sicko committee types that are following like arena football, you're not really talking much about stuff besides like hypotheticals or maybe trades or like drama off-field stuff. That's it. That's a tough period to kind of carry shows or content.
Right. Which I give them credit for coming up with daily episodes. I do give them that credit, which I'm sure we could too, but I don't know. Maybe we can. I don't know. Maybe we could. I don't know.
we probably could. Yeah, that's all I can say. That it's more up to like life between you and I. That's always how it goes. Life comes first. If we can get together, show then goes on. So.
Which in the summer I could do it almost every day or 3 days a week.
Quite frankly, once the UFL season ends, I also probably could definitely do that. So I think you and I need to talk because, once June 14th clears up, I am blank slate until pretty much, actually NFL season would be it because that's really what I focus on. Is NFL talk.
Maybe we get maybe we get tour episodes a week. Ooh, who knows?
Oh my God.
No.
Spicy.
and then when this baby's born, you'll never see me ever again.
And then the show died. And then the fans that we had or the people we'd have that would come on to antagonize in the chat would go, well, what happened to Bear Down Talk on Coach Steve's show?
No, it might be, hey, Zach, can you do 2 a.m.? Because I'll be up with the kid anyway at 2 a.m.
The funny part of that whole thing is knowing that I work nights, I could actually probably pull that off too. That's the
Oh, yeah.
funniest thing. This
Yeah,
isn't even like this is the funniest thing is that's like completely plausible for me to do like a midnight show depending on the night.
well, it could happen. I might just text you at 2 a.m. Hey, I'm up. We'll be up for another 2 hours. Wife's turn. I'm
All
up
right,
anyway.
I'm up too. Let's do this thing while I have the energy, while I'm sitting here playing Red Dead Redemption or something on my PS5. I got something better to do right now. I got a podcast.
Oh, like, I know we're still recording. You have a PS5, right?
Oh yes.
I'm trying to get into game streaming.
Okay.
It's been a pain in the ass to figure out to like stream it. So I figured out a way. I got it to stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. But I got in trouble with YouTube from the game sounds from college football.
Oh
I got in
yeah,
trouble.
yeah. And I mean, you can mute that in your PlayStation. So just got to go do the settings before you go live.
But I want to do other games besides college football.
Okay.
So maybe at some point we stream games. Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, look, keep me posted. I think because like I said, I'm getting a little more time here too. I'm playing more video games as of late. Just come finding more time. So we'll chat. Just gotta.
I'll have time.
I also need to get a PlayStation Plus subscription because I haven't bought one in a while. So we'll see how that goes.
I don't know if I even have that.
Well, if we're playing online, we're gonna need it. We'd have to get that. Unless you're playing PC.
I'll have to see if I have it.
We'll talk.
I don't remember.
This might the bear down gaming sesh. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, we just have to be on Twitch, I think.
Yeah, there's ways you can get that. We'll get that sorted. Shoot, I can even share. I can use. We can help each other. We'll figure it out. Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, gaming session might happen, and then we'll be like Kyler Murray, and we'll be playing like Warzone and focusing less on football as the weeks go by. Like, oh yeah, football talk. Let's do that real quick.
I'll just make it a Shador Sanders bashing session.
It's a consistent Shador Sanders bashing festival.
I'm fine with it. Even though I have Dion's book upstairs.
I would participate. It's the best way I can say that.
If my camera wasn't zoomed, I'll have a bookshelf right there with all my books.
I
had to move it down from the room that's going to be the nursery. I had to move.
By the way, speaking of your setup, I do like the "Be curious, not judgmental" sign on the back wall there. Good quote.
You have that. You have believe.
Obviously.
Caitlin Clark.
Just gotta believe.
22. I'm a Walking Dead person. Yeah. I'm blocking other stuff.
Obviously,
Doctor Strange is up there.
Oh, yeah, I do see that. And is that Black Adam? Yeah.
There's a little figurine of Kobe Bryant up there, very small.
Oh, I see him right next to Black Adam, in the corner.
And my book that I wrote is behind me. You can't see it.
Oh. Should plug that more often.
I have to redo all this anyway.
You're an author, my man. Plug your book.
This whole setup will change.
It's okay. It comes in time.
Well, it won't change completely, but it'll get moved around.
Yeah. Oh, hey, speaking of OTAs one more time here. One of the things I found fascinating with the OTA talk is the discussion about left tackle is lighting up as of late. So Braxton Jones is currently out. He didn't really participate in the OTAs due to lingering injury, but there's two things that were noticed. Ozzie Trapilo, the Boston College draftee, apparently has looked really good like throughout OTAs so far. So someone that people are keeping an eye on is him. Might be a competition at left tackle if he keeps performing so well. But there's also apparently been Ben Johnson discussing that he will not rule out Darnell Wright switching to left tackle. So the left tackle position is very much still in, I think, the spotlight, because not to say Braxton Jones has been like disastrously bad, like Orlando Pace 1 year in Chicago at the back end of his career bad, but they could do better if they want. And if they found another classic Ryan Poles mid-round gem, perhaps this is the play. Is you evaluate that position. Who do you feel fits best? And if Darnell Wright's moved to a left tackle, who do you put it right? Do you trust Braxton or do you go with Ozzie? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the air with that now.
Isn't it funny how now they have options and any option will probably fit there? Weird, because they focused on the O-line spot over free agency.
Interesting. Oh yeah, and Joe Tooney, he got his extension. That was something we were waiting for. So he's locked up for this year and the next 2 years. So 3-year deal right now with Chicago.
Oh, I'm telling you, I think I titled this, "What are the expectations of the Bears?" It's just mainly OTA stuff because the schedule came out, and I know that's a whole other discussion.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm telling you, I think there's high expectations again. Like,
well, I think we are back to what's the best comparison for me this year? I don't know. 2024. Yeah, I mean, no. 2019 Chicago, I think. I think that's the hype right now, is that people feel like this is going to be a team that pops off and it's going to go to the next level. It's got all the pieces now. We're damn near close to it. And we're going to rock the NFC like the Commanders did last year.
Which I'm doing a really, really good job. I think it's because it's the off season. I'm not letting myself get to that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You're embracing my school of thought. Don't listen to all the sensational people out there. Get to the season. Results are first. It's a results-based business, Steve.
Well, I'm glad you said it. I'm more curious about the progress, the Nick Saban way of like every day, what are we doing? And so I'm trying to read Ben Johnson's quotes. And again, it's OTAs. It's hard to, adjust that, especially when it's new. If this was the same coaching staff and stuff like that.
And everybody and anybody wants to hear from Ben Johnson these days, it seems. That's like, we're in the Bears media darling sessions right now. When you got guys going, I like this guy. That's still funny.
Did you see who's the veteran quarterback they got as a backup?
Case Keenum.
He came out and said that he was going to be done with football. He got on the phone with Ben Johnson, and just what he said, the energy brought him back. And then he said just being at practice, seeing what they're doing is amazing. So yeah, I know Case, he's not like this. He had some decent moments in the NFL. He had a good college career. But just hearing
lest we forget, he was one blowout loss away from taking a Minnesota Vikings squad to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So,
but to have a veteran quarterback come in and say that, who's been around a bunch of different teams, it has to make you feel pretty good. So again, we've heard this. It's all talk. Like you said, it's results. It's a result-oriented business. So what are you going to do when the season starts? But what we want to hear is that it's moving in the right direction. So you're hearing Ben Johnson say, I'm not letting these things slide. I don't care who they are. I'm going to say these things. I'm not going to treat these kids with hand gloves. We're all getting after it. And you have the coaching staff following in those footsteps of what the head coach is doing.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see right now in camp to get this going. And from my understanding, the players are buying into it. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like they're all in.
Well, I definitely would say that's what you want. I mean, you don't want an Urban Meyer situation where you have a guy who is creating problems all the damn time. So good. We're doing the baseline thing that I think everyone assumed Ben Johnson was going to do. Coming from, a Dan Campbell background, him being this innovative play calling type and the way he's presented himself. That's good. It's good. It's all the stuff I want to hear. I do like the Case Keenum quotes too, by the way. The fact that he did get convinced by Ben to come back. And what I also like is that he seems to be very reinvigorated. One thing that also came out of the Bears Wire kind of recaps and like stuff that they pulled and found from various sources around the Bears like media scene. Keenum looks like he is like a definitively in competition with Tyson Bagent right now to win the backup job. This isn't like a Tyson Bagent's locked in situation we might have a Case Keenum veteran leading and being that mentor on the sidelines all the time, ready to go in for 2025 is what it's looking like. Unless stuff happens where Tyson turns on the Jets because it's training camp. Like apparently they looked about equal in OTAs.
But if you can somehow have Tyson Bagent and Keenum there at the same time,
sure,
that's great for Caleb Williams to have a veteran guy there helping you out. If something happens to Caleb Williams and goes down, you have Keenum that could just jump in there and be like, I've done this before.
Mm-hmm.
And if reports are true, he looks like a different guy. He's found his love for the game. He's rejuvenated and he's learning from Ben Johnson. That's what you want. You always want to be prepared for that. And I think that's why they went out and got him. I think that's why they got way more linemen this year, because they want to be prepared and, draft another tight end, got another receiver and stuff like that. They're trying to be as well prepared because Ben Johnson just went through all those injuries they had in Detroit. So I think he knows, like, hey, we have to be prepared. We have to coach these guys up. If this happens,
matters, man. Depth matters.
The thing that will scare me, which I know we're getting off, is the reason why you can't look too much into this because it's camp. They're not really in pads. They're not really doing this. We just don't know what the defense is going to look like either. We can sit here and talk about offense all day.
Oh, yeah.
We have a good defensive coordinator now, but, Eberflus is a good defense coordinator too. What players do we have on defense? And
right.
So all that has to come in.
And difference being, and we talked about this last time we were talking about the hires for coaching, kind of did our breakdown of like Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen coming on, is, Dennis Allen is definitively more of a risk taker. He's not a Todd Bowles. He doesn't blitz like an insane amount all the damn time and has to lead in like blitz percentage every year, but he does take more risk. He does in situations where he feels like he has an advantage in certain yard and kind of like down in distance, he will take more gambles than what Matty was doing. So you are going to see that. And as we've seen as well, much like, we've talked about, funny enough, with Matt Eberflus, man's a better coordinator than he is a head coach. And when he's focusing on his craft, he's pretty damn good at his craft, if funny enough. So yeah, expect, as we're saying, expect a little bit more, I think, aggressive nature, like more stuff that's maybe like you're showing more aggressive blitzes or more aggressive like setups where you're trying to like maybe change the line last minute, something like that. I really should watch a few more breakdowns on Dennis Allen's defense. That's one thing I need to do before next show. Let's get that down a little bit more. But
I have.
Yeah, I'm expecting. Plans. All I know is I'm expecting. I know from a fact, watching enough throughout my life as a football fan with him being a coordinator, that you're not going to see a guy like Matt who always is like, I want to play my front seven. Our front four needs to be the guys that are winning, and I don't want to rely on taking someone out of the secondary. That's just not
a scheme.
Yeah,
Allen's going to scheme. He's going to figure out a way.
Plus, the Bears, in my honest opinion, something I still flack them for this draft, by the way, and I know we didn't do a draft analysis episode, but like that was my one point from this draft and from the free agency is they really didn't address their edge rush issue or pass rush issue very efficiently to me. Maybe besides like Grady Jarrett, but yeah, I still am not confident in their ability to get to the QB, but maybe prove me wrong. Maybe the blitzes will change things. Maybe using TJ Edwards is more of like an attacking linebacker in that sense, because he showed last year he can do a great job when he's sent through a gap and trying to hunt down a quarterback or just create havoc. But I still don't trust that front four. That was the thing I came away with.
Well, and again, I think we said before the draft, because I think we did something before the draft. We didn't do anything after. There was too many things to address at one time, and that's what fans had to realize is you can't fix everything at one time. Yeah, could they have gotten one or two players? Sure. But it was up to Ben Johnson and company of like, okay, what is most important that we address that we can get done and put them in this order and look at who we have on offense, look who we have on defense. And then you have to get your analysis from your assistant coaches. So if your assistant coaches sit there and tell you, I can get this guy to play, like, I don't trust that front four either. But if Dennis Allen sits there and goes, we have a good defensive line coach, we can get this done, I can come up with this, we can do this, And then if we survive this year and we do something good this year, we're going to draw more attention. And then the following year, like look out if we get some dudes. So that is probably the conversation they had. So Ben Johnson has to sit there and trust his coaches as well, even though he's the guy. He has to sit there and, say, okay, I trust you. Let's do this. And then maybe this year they have to say, okay, our offense has to put us in good positions to take pressure off our defense, and that's where that comes in. And if those young front four have confidence and they don't have all the pressure on them, we're good in most games. So I think that's kind of the approach they took, because they have some young defensive guys up front, and so they just have to get them coached up and ready to go. And maybe Dennis Allen's like, hey, how do I coach guys that aren't necessarily the guys that get to the quarterback that are on my front four? Oh, I got to help them out. I got to stunt them. I got to bring a linebacker. I got to do this. I got to do this. So I think that's where they went.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No, I see that.
But what do I know? What do I know?
You're actually a coach. I'm just a lowly podcaster.
I'm just a lowly podcaster trying to coach football.
But see, the keynote is you're coaching football.
For now.
For now.
I've been doing it for 15 years. Going into 16.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm only 34. I'm about to go into 16. I'm old.
Oh man, you're older than me, but I don't consider you old. It's when you post and say you're old. When you go to like the gym post and be like, my knees.
Oh, that
was one. That's just one off the cuff one I was thinking about the other day.
Well, this happened just last week. I have to get back in shape. I got to do something. Mm-hmm. So I went to lift, and I haven't done bench press in 5 years. 5 years I have not done bench press. I've done like the machines, but I've never gone up to the bar and put weight on it, because I have a mental problem where when I go lift stuff like that, I feel like since I'm like a big guy, people are like, he has to be able to lift all this weight. And I keep telling myself, Steve, you're old. There's no reason to do that. You just got to. Well, I was in there by myself. Yeah. And I was doing bench press. And for some reason, this is the measuring point. I was like, I do 135 a couple times. I put 10s on there and do it. I put a 25 on there. I do it. I put a 35 on there and I do it. And I'm like, well, I should still be able to get 2 plates, right?
Right.
So I did it. And I was like, I still got it. The next day, boom, 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 boom. But I'm like, I think I tore a pec. That's your first thought, is you just tore a pec muscle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, but like, I'm old. It's like, but I also done bench press in 5 years. And I was like, if we're not doing it for 5 years, though, I still got 225. It's okay. I got it. I did it twice. I got it. I was like, okay, here we go. But I have a mental problem where it's like, let's say somebody else was in there lifting with me, I would have tried to have gotten like 285, 300. I have a problem where I feel like I have to, like dumbbells, if I'm around people, I'm only doing 50s. I feel like I have to grab the hundreds and start doing them, because I feel like I have like, you're a big guy. You're supposed to be able to do this. You played football. You're supposed to be able to do this. You walked off college football. You're supposed to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm also 34. I don't want to lift heavy. I have no reason to lift heavy. Back then, you had to lift heavy to move people. So I don't have to do that no more.
No.
I just have a mental problem where I feel like I have to lift heavy. And it's a real problem.
Yeah, you got to adjust what you're doing and realize you're not where you were back when you're playing football.
That's why I don't want to lift in front of our athletes, because they'll just talk shit to me. They're going to be like, well, I bench this. And I'll be like, all right, put it on there.
I have to say again, when the times I've talked to you about your relationship with your athletes on the football team where you're at, it's gold. I love listening to it. It's like, it's great. It's great.
Oh, I joke with them. They can joke with me, and they know when it's time to go and when it's not. And I guarantee if I go in there and I start doing bench press, they will literally come up to me and be like, "That's it."
then you have two options. Do I make an excuse or do I commit to it to prove my
Here's what would happen.
my young kids wrong?
Here's what would happen. I'd be like, all right, what can you bench press? And they'll say, oh, 250. I'll be like, all right, put 275 on there. I'm going to show you.
See, that's the trap.
But I'd have 911 pull up on my phone. I would hand it to the head coach and be like, as soon as I'm done, you hit the call button because it's going to hurt and I need to go. Like, and that's exactly what would happen.
I know you'll understand.
There's 2 lifts. There's 3 lifts, sorry, that they'll never get me to do again. Ever. Squatting. I'll never do it again.
No more squats?
No. I'll do leg press. I'll do all that. I'm not doing squats.
Okay.
I will never, ever deadlift again. And I will never power clean again. They want to have a leg press off. I got it. They want to have a bench. I'll get back into it. My back and my knees are just too bad to be doing squats and deadlifts. Like, especially squat and deadlift were my thing. So I would have a real mental problem with that. I'd be like, yeah, let's put 500 on there. Let's see if I can. I would have a real problem.
Just crank one of those 500-pound deadlift.
I would have a hernia. My spine would pop out.
Yeah, that's where like I know deadlift is an essential for like building that base, but like I used to hate doing deadlifts because that's the stuff I would worry about. It's like if I do it any bit wrong, and I'm like doing the heavier side of it. Yeah, and that was me in high school. I was worried about that stuff.
In high school, I hated deadlift until I got strong enough, and then I was like, I want to do the heaviest. Same thing with squat. I hated squats, but it was like I'll never forget when I started repping 3 plates on there, and I was just going up and down, up and down, up and down. I was like, this is my thing. These 2 things are my thing.
Okay.
And so I just did those. Bench press, whatever. Power clean. I never did power clean until I got to college.
Okay.
In high school, we did hang cleans. We never did power cleans. Then I got to college. I walked on and they said, listen, you have to power clean. And I said, I've never done it before. I've only done hang cleans. And they made it position specific. So if you were an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, you did power clean because it's coming from the floor. You're in that position. If you're like a linebacker and stuff, you did hang cleans because that's like your natural position. So I had to go in there and try to do power clean. And I remember being terrible at it. I'm like, because I've never done it before. So now I know in high school, we make them do both. There's sometimes where they do power clean, sometimes they do hang clean. My high school coach said, you're going to do hang cleans. Everybody does hang cleans. And I hated it. Like that's the one I got worried about. That was the one power clean and deadlift was the one I was afraid of getting hurt on.
Deadlift, especially for me, that one. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that I also would always hated the one I would lift with the bar would just rip my knees apart with like ripping the skin up. Like never get like to cleanly go up.
Oh, I did that too, but I had to get over that until I found out what a hex bar was.
Yeah, hex bars can save you a ton. Thank God for hex bar. Hex bar setup.
We went to a weightlifting meet and we'd only ever done straight bar. We go to this place and they're like, oh yeah, we use a hex bar here. And we're like, what's a hex bar? We don't know what that is.
You mean to tell me this magical thing exists?
Well, then the head coach is like, man, all your guys' deadlifts got higher. And we're like, yeah, I wonder why. Because it was a hex bar. It was so much easier. So they were like, weren't you guys only deadlifting like 400 something at this meet? You got 500? We're like, yeah, it's weird. It's weird how that happened. But yeah, no, I'll never do those 3 ever again. Ever again.
No, here's what it is. But hey, gotta know your body where you are now, and I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm a fat, obese guy that should not be doing that stuff.
You're trying to shed pounds, not gain the, what is it? You're not trying to get yoked. Is that what it is? I probably said it wrong.
No, I think that's right.
I think that's right.
There's a lot of phrases. That's one of them. You're trying to get the summer body ready.
There you go.
That's what the kids are telling me now. They're like, you got to get the summer body ready. I'm like, for what? Said, you guys can. For me, I'm like, for what? Well, here's another fat person thing. Last Monday on Memorial Day, had nothing going on. I said, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym. So I went and just did a normal lift. Well, I have to get cardio in. I said, well, I have to mow the grass today, so that'll be my cardio.
It's funny. I take that approach when I go grocery shopping. Like, I'm just gonna. I have this list, but I'm just gonna roam the store, and I look at the step counter. I'm like, I can just keep going.
Well, that's what I did. I went and lifted, came back, and I was like, well, I have a push mower. That'll be my cardio because it does take me like hour.
That's actually not bad yard work to have for cardio because you are pushing something like that,
Yeah, I am pushing something. Part of the yard is slanted like this, so I have to do my foot coordination to make sure. I was like, yeah, that's in my cardio. It's fine. That's the ultimate fat guy old move right there.
Mm-hmm.
I told somebody at work that, and they were like, man, that's great cardio, being on a riding lawnmower as your cardio. And I was like, no. I push mow it. Don't get it twisted.
That would be wacky if you presented yourself that way. Anyone like that doing that? Well, I'm doing my cardio. I'm mowing the lawn.
I did tell people that. I was like, I was getting my steps in for that. Got my steps in walking around the gym.
Well, on a riding lawnmower. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You got a case with the push, clearly.
Yeah, it takes me a little over an hour. That's walking around.
Yeah. So you get your steps in for the day. You're pushing something, so you're exerting more muscles.
And then when I start in the summer, I'll lift, and then I'll have basketball camp. I'll be moving around. I'll have football camp. Be moving around.
There you go.
And then if it's not hot enough, I'll take the dogs on a quick walk. See, I'll figure it out. I don't need the treadmill.
You've got options. You got options.
Coming down to the basement, walking up and down the stairs. See, there's options. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
All right, everybody. I think we got it covered. Be on the lookout for game streaming, other Chicago Bears stuff as this gets rolling. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, man. We'll talk. We'll get that sorted out.
We'll get it sorted out. It'll be fine. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching or listening. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Be on the lookout for other college football guests that I'm working on.
Oh,
it always happens in the summer. I always get it going in the summer.
It's a good time for it. I like it.
Before you hopped on, that's what I was doing. I probably sent out 30 messages as I was waiting. 30 of them. Just boom, 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 boom.
Very nice. Get a bunch of them ready, and then you line them up. I love it.
And we'll end on this. It's always funny when I reach out to college coaches. They're like, when do you want to come on? And I give them dates and exact times when I'm available. And they go, nobody's ever done that before. I'm like, well, I'm busy. So I have a calendar. I have a calendar called Steve's Summer Calendar. I have every single thing typed up in there, from camp to like appointment to this. Because it's funny, because sometimes I'll say, yeah, on Wednesday, I'm available. On Wednesday, June, whatever, I'm available between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., but then I'm available again from 3 to 5. And it's like, they think it's funny. They're like, wow, you have this down to like, I'm like, you got to. When you're getting guests, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'll have college coaches on again. I'm getting it lined up. Yeah. I might see some on Tuesday. I'm going to go to North Central. It's a prospect camp. Yeah. Division I coaches will be there.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go up to them and hand them I'll make business cards. Here you go, guys.
That's what you should do, though. That's great networking. That's what, shoot, man, that's what I should be doing.
If any Division I coach hears me say that, they know it's a joke. Because that's what these high school kids are doing now. You know that?
Business cards?
I was at U of I's practice last year. This bus pulls up with a bunch of players that the coaches had to talk to.
Okay.
Talking to Coach Miller, who's the O-line coach. He goes up and talks to these guys. Comes back over to me. He goes, I'm like, what's in your hand? He goes, Steve, this is how recruiting works now. And they're business cards. And I said, what? Business cards? He goes, that's how it works now. So if I go up to these coaches and start handing business cards for the podcast, they would punch me in the face, or they're going to rip it up. It's going to be one of the two.
Boy, oh boy. I mean, hey, put a scan QR code bar on there, and there you go, like a link tree link. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it was real funny. He goes, "You know what I do with half of these? Puts them on the ground."
Yeah.
Then he goes, "You see that 6'7" kid? I'll keep his."
Oh man.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.